Hi, my name is Rosemary Jackson. I'm in SPCE 683813. Um, and I just forgot my professor's name, but I'm going to continue on. I honestly don't know how to shuffle cards, so I'm just going to break it and push it around a few times. Here's my 1-minute timer. And skip the first one. An assessment method that includes gathering information via direct observation and manipulation of stimuli, including single stimulus, successive choice, pair stimulus, multiple stimulus without replacement, multiple stimulus with replacement, and free operant preference assessment. Direct preference assessment. Inadequate professional repertoire, difficulty problem solving and database decision making, inadequate supervisory repertoire, unethical behavior. Skip. Multiple component, the treatment package, habit reversal, a behavioral effect associated with abrupt and ratio strain, statements describing corrective, disciplinary, and that was the timer. Disciplinary and revocation actions depending on the circumstances for violations of a professional disciplinary standards. Go to your room. Go to your room. Go to your room. Go to your room.
I want you to swim with me.
I'll be there in just a second, okay? I'll be there in just a second. Let me, mommy, finish homework. Provide clear guidelines for their numbers to follow when deciding a course of proper ethical codes of behavior. An emotional reaction of anger or frustration, including operant behavior, counter control. Written guidelines that provide direction for conducting the practices associated with an organized profession. Professional standards. State, provincial, or national government document that is established by law and specifies the privileges and limits of professional practice. License. Voluntary credential issued by a private organization that is authorized by members of the professional, not the government. Professional certification, an observer who is unaware of the study's purpose and or experimental conditions in effect during given phase or observation period. Naive observer, vertical line drawn upward from the left hand end of horizontal axis, aka y-axis. Vertical axis, straight horizontal line that represents time, aka x-axis. Horizontal axis, the difference between the cost of a treatment or intervention and the projected benefits, cost benefit ratio. Go, quit. Brief descriptions of the dimension represented by and scaled along each axis, axis labels.
Mommy.
Vertical lines drawn upward from the horizontal axis to show points in time which changes in independent variables occurred. Condition change line. Single words of brief descriptive phrases printed along the top of the graph and parallel to the horizontal axis. Condition labels. Initial assessment of supervisory skills is critical for establishing clear goals for supervision. Interview and direct observation serve as options for this initial assessment. These methods allow for an assessment of the supervisee's knowledge and ability to perform the procedures he or she will be responsible for in his/her job role. Supervisee initial assessment. A procedure in which a person compares her performance of a target behavior with a predetermined goal or standard, often a component of self-management. Self-evaluation. changing contingency of reinforcement by gradually increase the response ratio or the extent of term interval. Schedule thinning occurs when the most salient component of a compound stimulus arrangement controls responding and interferes with the acquisition of a stimulus control by the more relevant stimulus. Overshadowing consolidates, updates, and replaces the former BACB's professional, disciplinary, and ethical standards and guidelines for responsible conduct for behavior analysis, compliance code, performance feedback to supervisors by their supervisees related to supervision procedures, upward evaluations. Terminal goals should reflect the reinforcement that matches the natural environment, maximize contingencies within the natural environment, as well as making consequences and indiscriminable. Then reinforcement, the environment in which something occurs, setting, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Empathy, teach behaviors to occur in all settings. Sequential modification, teach behaviors across multiple stimulus conditions. Train sufficient exemplars. Use self-instruction, self-recording, set up cues. Mediate, generalize, teach behaviors to occur with consequences which are likely to happen in the natural environment. Introduce natural maintaining contingency, describes the behavior of making noises or sounds without social mediation. Vocal, nonverbal, behavior analysts are required to respect intellectual properties by obtaining permission to use copyrighted or trademarked materials and providing citations, attributions, or symbols, and refrain from unlawfully obtaining or disclosing proprietary information. Use of intellectual property. Antecedent intervention that provides non-contingent access to preferred sources of reinforcement. Environmental enrichment describes communication through speech, vocal, verbal. A schedule of reinforcement in which the response requirements of two or more basic schedules must be met in a specific sequence. Reinforcement is delivered. Stimulus is correlated with each component of the schedule. Chain schedule, environmental design in which participants are presented with two response option. Each option is associated with this distinctive stimulus and leads to a different set of treatment procedures. Concurrent chain design, stimulus change that follows a behavior of entrance, consequence, punishment that requires the involvement of others, socially mediated punishment, reinforcement that requires the involvement of others, socially mediated reinforcement, stimulus change that functions as a reinforcer and increases the frequency of behavior that it precedes as a result of evolutionary development. It does not rely on previous learning history. Primary condition reinforcers, the stimulus change that functions as a punisher and decreases the frequency of behavior that it precedes as a result of evolutionary development. It does not rely on previous learning history. Primary unconditioned punishers, provides physical assistance as needed. Graduated guidance, variety of techniques for gradually transferring stimulus control with a minimum of errors. Errorless learning. And skills trained through behavioral skills training are tested in the natural environment to allow learners to contact contingencies described in training. Inset assessment, schedule of reinforcement in which reinforcer is contingent on a response being different in some specified way from previous response or a specified number of responses. Lag reinforcement, allocation of responses to choices available on concurrent schedules of reinforcement. Rates of responding across choices are distributed in proportions that match the rates of reinforcement received for each choice alternative. Matching law, A schedule reinforcement in which the response requirements of 2 or more basic schedules must be met in a specific sequence before reinforcement is delivered. Stimulus is correlated with each component of the schedule. Chain schedule. A schedule of reinforcement in which 2 or more contingents of reinforcement operate independently and simultaneously for 2 or more behaviors. Concurrent schedule. Covert events typically accessible only to the person experiencing them. Private events, 2D graph that shows relative distribution of individual measures in a data set. Data points aren't connected. Scatterplot, embrace the participants' values, expectations, traditions, and ideas. Cultural match, prior to presence assessment, potential tangibles that could act to increase future occurrences of the behavior. Potential reinforcers, skills are identified in sequence. Definitions for these skills should be developed. Mastery criteria are not identified. Supervise the goal. Supervise the goal setting. 1. Adhere to documentation expectations. 2. Participate in observations or rehearsals. 3. Respond professionally to feedback. 4. Meet performance expectations. 5. Seek clarification. 6. Provide supervisor with performance. Okay, go lay down. Go lay down and I will go to your room.
I'm just listening to you.
Go lay down, please. Supervise the expectations. Allows the client to access the reinforcers that have previously maintained the problem behavior, alternative behaviors. A 2-dimensional graph with a logarithmic scale y-axis so that equal instances on the vertical axis represent changes in behavior that are of equal proportion. Semi-logarithmic charts. An assessment method includes gathering information from familiar parties. Direct preference assessment. Reinforcer generalization when it happens. Train to generalize. Might include a child learning curse words from peers or how to sing a song on the radio. Unplanned models designed to evoke a specific imitative response and may include teaching a child to say a word, to brush his teeth, or paint a picture. Plan models, an assessment method that includes gathering information from familiar parties. Indirect preference assessment.